The tow truck lights flashed red across the water while Karen stood on my dock pointing at my boat like she had just caught a criminal. "Hook it up," she ordered the driver. "That thing is illegally docked." The driver hesitated for a second and looked at me. I was standing 10 feet away holding a cup of coffee, watching the whole thing like it was a strange morning show. "Ma'am," the driver said carefully, "are you sure this is your dock?" Karen snapped her head toward him like he had insulted her. "I'm the president of the Blue Water Boating Club," she said loudly. "That boat violates club size limits. It's too big for this lake, tow it." People from nearby docks had already started watching. Phones were out. Someone whispered, "Oh, this is gonna be good." My boat rocked gently against the dock, 32 feet of polished white fiberglass, with twin engines humming quietly, under the water. I had brought it in late the night before after a long ride. Karen hadn't liked it the moment she saw it. Actually, Karen didn't like anything she couldn't control. She marched across my dock like she owned it. "You were warned last week," she said, pointing a finger at my chest. "No oversized vessels on this lake. Show rules." I took a slow sip of coffee. "Morning to you too, Karen." Her face tightened. "Don't play dumb," she snapped. "You got the notice." I tilted my head. "The one you taped to my mailbox?" "Yes." "The one printed on pink paper?" She crossed her arms. "That's not the point." "It kind of is," I said calmly. The tow truck driver scratched his beard, clearly unsure if he should move. Karen turned on him again. "What are you waiting for? Tow it!" He looked at me. "Sir, is this your boat?" "Yes." "And this your dock?" "Yes." Karen clapped her hands once loudly. "Oh my God, he's lying." She pulled her phone out and started recording. "This man is illegally docking a commercial-sized vessel on HOA waters," she announced dramatically like she was reporting the news. Someone down the shoreline laughed. "I leaned against the railing, Karen," I said slowly. "You don't even live on this side of the lake." Her smile appeared. That smug HOA smile. "Oh, sweetie, the club controls the lake. That means I control the docks." A few people watching shook their heads. Everyone here knew Karen 2 years ago. She tried banning jet skis because one splashed water near her paddleboard. Last summer, she reported a kids' lemonade stand for unauthorized shoreline commerce. Now, apparently my boat was her newest enemy. She turned back to the tow driver. "Tow it now before I call the sheriff." The driver sighed. "Ma'am, I just don't want to tow something illegally." Karen's voice went cold. "Fine." She tapped her phone. "I'm calling them." She dialed and put it on speaker like she wanted an audience. "Hello? Yes, I need a deputy out here immediately. There's an illegal commercial vessel blocking our community dock and the owner is refusing to comply." She glanced at me while she said it. "Possible trespassing too." A murmur moved through the small crowd gathering along the shoreline. I finished my coffee. Karen ended the call and smiled. "There," she said. "Let's see how calm you are when the sheriff gets here." I placed the empty cup on the railing. "You done?" She blinked. "Excuse me? You finished lying yet?" Her face turned red instantly. "I am the president of this boating club." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, that's the problem." A few people chuckled. Karen pointed at my boat again. "That thing is 30 feet if it's an inch." 32. "Exactly!" she shouted. She looked around like she had just proven a major crime. "The club rule says boats over 28 feet are banned." I shrugged. "That's a club rule." "Yes. This isn't a club dock." Her smile froze. "Of course it is." "No," I said quietly. "It isn't." She laughed like I had told the dumbest joke ever. "Oh, please. My club has controlled this shoreline for 15 years. I nodded again. "Used to?" Now people were whispering harder. Karen noticed it. "What does that mean?" she demanded. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked down the dock and rested my hand on the polished rail of the boat. The twin engines gave a low rumble. Karen rolled her eyes. "Enjoy it while you can," she said. "Because when the sheriff gets here, that boat is leaving on a tow line." I looked back at her. "Karen," she smirked. "You should have read the HOA rules." I smiled a little. "You should have read the county records." Her smirk faded just slightly. "What is that supposed to mean?" Before I could answer, we heard tires crunching on gravel up the hill. A sheriff's truck. Karen's smile came roaring back. Oh, perfect, she said loudly. Now we can settle this. The deputy stepped out and walked toward the shoreline, looking between Karen, the tow truck, and my boat. Karen waved both arms like she was flagging down a rescue helicopter. Officer, thank goodness you're here. The deputy nodded. What seems to be the problem? Karen pointed dramatically at my boat. That man is illegally docking a 32-foot vessel on our lake and refusing HOA orders to remove it. The deputy looked at me, then at the dock, then at the boat, then back at Karen. Ma'am, he said slowly, who told you this lake belongs to your HOA? Karen blinked. What? The lake, the deputy repeated. Who told you your boating club owns it? Karen looked confused for the first time all morning. Because we do. The deputy raised an eyebrow. I leaned casually against the dock railing. Yeah, Karen, I said quietly. That's the part you got wrong. She spun toward me. Wrong about what? I looked straight at her. About who actually owns this lake? The entire shoreline went silent. Karen laughed nervously.
You?
I gave a small shrug. Not just me. Her smile slowly disappeared. What does that mean? I looked at the deputy. The deputy looked back at me, and then did something that made Karen's face lose all color. He nodded at me with quiet respect. Morning, Mr. Carter, he said. Karen's voice cracked. Wait, you two know each other? I smiled slightly. Oh, yeah. Then I pointed toward the water stretching across the entire valley. And Karen, she swallowed. Yes? You might want to call your boating club. She frowned. Why? I looked back at my boat. Because after what you just tried to do, I paused. They're about to lose access to this lake. Karen stared at me like I had just spoken another language. Lose access? She repeated slowly. To my lake? I almost laughed at that. The deputy beside us crossed his arms and looked out over the water for a moment. Like he already knew this conversation wasn't going to go well for her. Karen turned to him quickly. Officer, you heard him. He's threatening our boating club. The deputy scratched his jaw. Ma'am, I think he's explaining something. Her eyebrows shot up. Explaining what? I stepped closer to the edge of the dock and pointed across the lake. Morning sun was just starting to spread across the water. Docks lined the shoreline. Boats rocked gently in the calm. Most of those boats had little blue flags on them. Blue Water Boating Club. Karen's club. That shoreline, I said calmly. Those docks. Those slips. Your clubhouse on the north side. Karen smirked again. Yes? None of it belongs to your club. The smirk slowly faded. Of course it does. No, I said. You lease it. Someone behind us whispered, oh boy. Karen shook her head quickly like she was brushing away nonsense. We've controlled this lake for 15 years. Leased, I corrected. Controlled, she snapped back. Leased. She stepped closer to me, voice rising. You don't know what you're talking about. The deputy suddenly spoke up. Actually, he does. Karen turned toward him. Excuse me? He pointed toward the dock post beside us. A small metal plate was bolted there. Most people ignored it. Karen clearly had too. See that tag? The deputy asked. Karen squinted at it. Yeah? That's a county shoreline registry tag. So it lists the legal shoreline owner. Karen shrugged. Which is the Blue Water Boating Club. The deputy shook his head slowly. No, ma'am. He turned the plate so she could read it clearly, and for the first time, Karen leaned closer. Her lips moved silently as she read the name. Then her face went pale. She looked back at me. No, I shrugged. Yep. The crowd along the shore got quieter. Karen looked back at the tag again, then at the water, then at my boat. You're lying, she said weakly. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out my phone. 2 taps later, I turned the screen toward her. County property map. The lake highlighted in blue. Owner name listed clearly. Carter Family Holdings. Karen's voice dropped to a whisper. That can't be right. Oh, it's right. The deputy nodded. His family owns the lake basin and most of the shoreline parcels. Someone down the dock let out a low whistle. Karen looked around suddenly, realizing everyone was listening. No, she said louder now. No. Our club has operated here for years. True, I said. Exactly. Because my dad leased it to you. That hit her like a brick. She blinked. Leased? Cheap too, I added. Honestly, he liked the idea of a local boating community. Karen looked like she was trying to solve a math problem that made no sense. That lease is permanent. She pointed at my boat again like she needed something solid to attack. Even if that was true, your boat still violates club rules. Club rules don't apply to me. Yes, they do, the deputy chuckled quietly. Karen snapped toward him. This isn't funny. He raised his hand slightly. I didn't say it was. I leaned against the railing again. Karen, I'm not in your boating club. She froze. What? Never joined. That doesn't matter. It actually matters a lot. The tow truck driver finally spoke up from beside his truck. So, just to be clear, he pointed at the lake. This guy owns it? Karen shouted before anyone else could answer. No. The deputy calmly nodded. Yes. The driver scratched his head. Then why am I towing his boat? Karen spun toward him. Because it's oversized. For his lake? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. A few people laughed. Her face went bright red. She turned back to the deputy. Officer, this man is disrupting a private boating community. The deputy tilted his head. Ma'am, technically your club is operating on his property. Karen's mouth opened, then closed again. For the first time since she walked onto my dock, she didn't have something loud to say. The deputy's words hung in the air. Ma'am, technically your club is operating on his property. The shoreline was completely quiet now. Even the people who had been whispering earlier were just watching. Karen shook her head slowly. No, that's not possible. She turned to the crowd like someone would defend her. Our club built this marina. I shrugged. You built docks on leased shoreline. That's the same thing. It's really not. She pointed toward the clubhouse on the north side of the lake. The big wooden building with the Blue Water Boating Club sign. That building cost $2 million. Yep. And we have hundreds of members. Also true. She stepped closer, voice shaking now. So you're saying you can just take the lake back? I looked at the deputy. Then back at her. Not take it back. I paused. Just stop sharing it. A low murmur moved through the people watching. Karen's face went pale again. You wouldn't dare. I leaned casually on the dock railing. You tried towing my boat from my own dock. That boat violates club rules. Your club rules. She turned to the deputy again. Officer, he's threatening to shut down a private boating club. The deputy shook his head. That's not a threat. Karen blinked. What? That's a property decision. She looked like she was about to explode. Right then, another SUV rolled down the gravel road toward the docks. Black. County plates. Karen crossed her arms again like reinforcements had just arrived. Good, she muttered. Finally, someone who understands property law. The SUV stopped near the boat ramp. A tall woman stepped out carrying a leather folder. She walked down the dock calmly, scanning the shoreline as she approached. The deputy nodded to her. Morning, Karen immediately pointed at me. This man is claiming he owns the lake. The woman didn't even look surprised. She stopped beside us and opened the folder. Mr. Carter, she said politely. Morning. Karen froze. Her eyes moved slowly between us. You know him too? The woman pulled out a stack of papers and handed them to me. Final approval came through this morning. I glanced down at the documents. Stamped. Signed. Official. Karen tried to read the title upside down. Her voice was barely above a whisper. What is that? I folded the papers and looked back at her. Termination notice. She blinked rapidly. For what? I handed one copy to the deputy. And then I handed another copy directly to Karen. For your lease. Her hands trembled slightly as she read the first line. Her face turned white. No. The deputy read it quietly and nodded. Looks official. Karen looked up at me like the ground had disappeared under her feet. You can't end our lease. I shrugged. Actually, I can. But we've been here 15 years. Lease term was 15 years. Her eyes widened. Wait! She flipped the page desperately. No. This says the lease expired yesterday. I nodded. Midnight. The crowd along the shoreline exploded with whispers. Karen looked like she might fall over. "You planned this?" I smiled slightly. "Not exactly." She waved the paper at me. "You waited for it to expire." "I waited until you tried towing my boat." The tow truck driver laughed under his breath. Karen spun toward him. "This is not funny." He raised his hands. "Lady, you tried stealing a boat from the guy who owns the lake." Karen's breathing got faster. "This is harassment!" The county woman closed her folder calmly. "Actually, Ms. Karen, the notice also states your club must vacate the docks within 30 days. Karen stared at her in shock. "Vacate? All docks, slips, and shoreline structures." Her voice cracked. "But where will our boats go?" I looked out across the lake. "That sounds like a club problem." She stepped toward me again, desperate now. "You can't shut down an entire boating community." "I'm not shutting it down." "Yes, you are." I shook my head. "No." She stared at me. "Then what are you doing?" I pointed toward my boat. "I'm just making sure nobody tries towing it again." The deputy chuckled. People along the dock started laughing. Karen's face turned bright red. "You're doing this out of revenge." I thought about that for a second. Then I said something people on that shoreline would repeat for months. "You tried to tow my boat off my own lake." I paused. "So now your club can find a new one." Karen looked around desperately. No one defended her. Some club members were already pulling out their phones. Others looked angry, but not at me. At her, one older man near the marina shook his head and muttered loud, enough for everyone to hear. "She just got us kicked off the lake." Karen's shoulders dropped. The fight was gone. The deputy handed her the termination notice back. "Ma'am, I'd start calling your club members." She stared down at the paper like it had betrayed her. I stepped onto my boat and untied the dock line. The engines rumbled softly to life. Karen looked up one last time. "You really own the whole lake?" I eased the boat away from the dock. "Yep." She swallowed. "But why let our club stay all these years?" I gave a small shrug. "My dad believed people should enjoy the water." Karen whispered one last question. "And you?" I smiled as the boat turned. "Toward open water. I believe people should respect the person who owns it." The boat glided across the lake as the morning sun lit the water. Behind me, the docks were full of shocked boat owners, angry club members, and one HOA Karen standing there holding the paper that ended her power. And the funniest part? If she had just minded her own business, she'd still be boating on my lake.